Okay. All right. Okay. I think we'll get started. There's a good enough amount of people. Um, and at moments I might pause because I can't turn off the waiting room. I feel like I'm a geriatric on Zoom right now, which is great. Um, okay. All right. Well, hi everyone. Welcome to this webinar. So it's beyond the GPA, showcasing your unique qualities in medical school applications in Australia. We want to make it a bit more interactive today. You guys are on Zoom. I don't know if you guys did uni during COVID. I personally hate Zoom calls and getting picked on and talking, but if you guys want to unmute at any time and share your thoughts, you're more than welcome to do that. Just a couple of housekeeping rules. Yeah, you can, if you have any questions, put it in the in the chat or in the poll section. Oh, okay, there's no polls. So put it in the chat. And also, yeah, if you have any questions, raise your hand, then you can unmute and then you can ask me a question. This is going to be very chill for you guys. So yeah, just we'll get started. Okay, so a little bit about me. So I'm actually a second year medical student at the University of Sydney. So currently my role within Frasers is that I'm the quality and control lead, which means that I basically, if you were to buy the course at Frasers, you'll be with a tutor for interviews and applications and whatnot. I'm making sure that everyone is at a high level and making sure that they do tutor you guys at an adequate level. If you guys have any concerns with the course or any sort of things that you feel like you need, you can always email me or have a way you want to contact me. And a bit more about myself. So I actually, I've been at uni for about 9 years. And the reason why I've been at uni for 9 years is because I actually did the GAMSAT 6 times, and because I did the GAMSAT 6 times, every time I sort of progressed, and then eventually I got an interview at the University of Wollongong, and then I did well in the interview, and then 10 days before starting at the University of Wollongong, I somehow got a offer from University of Sydney, and I was like, holy shit! Now I have to decide between going to Sydney or going to Wollongong, and I can talk about that a bit later on if you guys want, about why I chose which uni. But hopefully you guys are not in that position where you have to choose between Sydney or a GEMSAS university, or Flinders and a GEMSAS university. Anyone from Adelaide here today? Put it in the chat. No? Okay, no one from Adelaide. Oh, there's one person from Adelaide. Yeah, definitely apply for Flinders, because Flinders is a great university. Okay, all right. So, okay, so let's talk about the journey. So what are we doing today? So I think a lot of you guys have started your applications process. And by the way, can everyone hear me properly and clear and well? Yep. Okay, cool. All right. If you can't hear me at any point, then just shout out, and also feel free to stop me at any time if you have any questions. Okay. All right. So why are we here today? We're here today to figure out what our chances are in our application, because so applications started this month, I believe, and it's going to end by the end of this month. So on the 31st of May, that's when when the applications end. There's also a couple of other timelines. So just be very wary of the timeline for Flinders and University of Sydney, because they do operate on a different timetable. And also there's like documentation. So if you're a rural student, definitely look into getting those documents. I'm a rural student myself. So in terms of my sort of journey, I did a lot of extracurricular activities whilst I was sitting for the GAMSAT, and also I was trying to bump up my GPA as well. So put your hands up if you're stressed about your GPA, if you're worried that if it's enough or not. Okay, there's one person. That's good. That's good. GPA is a hurdle for a lot of universities, but it is also one of those things that we need to be wary of. There's also the stuff about extracurricular activities as well. Oh, okay. Someone's stressed about 2020. This is a very hot topic because I actually did honors in 2020, and there was a petition back in 2020 where I was a part of, where we tried to make sure that medical schools included GPA. But I'll talk about that later. But yeah, like extracurriculars are a big thing that I would highly recommend getting into, because it does help with a lot of like I guess life experience. There's also the GAMSAT, thinking about the GAMSAT as well, and also dealing with the difficulties down the road. How to get up, because like I said, 6 GAMSATs. How did I bring myself up to sit through that exam? And that exam, before it was on computer, I actually did it on paper, and it was a 6-hour exam. Anyone did it? Anyone did the GAMSAT when it was a paper exam? No one. Wow. Okay. No one's done it. That's good. It's relatively easier now. Oh, okay. So okay, 2 people. Yeah, it was a paper exam. It was the bane of my existence. But I was glad that they got to computer, but then they changed it up and made it harder. But that's okay. That's okay. This is why you guys are here and going through the whole process. Okay, so let's talk about the GPA. So how do you overcome a GPA that you're not happy about? So I think with the GPA is one of those things where, like, some universities do put a lot of emphasis on the GPA, and some universities actually don't. For example, so University of Sydney actually puts GPA as a hurdle. So it's a 5.5, which is a wham of about 65%. But then there's other universities which does put a lot of emphasis on the GPA. So for example, Melbourne University. It's just a question to you guys. Which university are you guys hoping to get into? And it's okay to be ambitious, because I was ambitious as well. And now I'm at University of Sydney, which is apparently the #1 medical school in the country. Apparently. Okay, so a few Melbournes, few double stream, nice. Deakin, any is a good one. To be honest, I thought I was also like that. If anyone would take me, I would be very happy. Okay, UQ, Griffith, yeah, wherever I'll go, yeah, of course, me too. Okay, so I think it's very important to think which university you are gunning for, because with those universities, it's really important to see what GPAs a lot of students do apply with, and sometimes you do need to be a bit realistic with what your chances are, because on the GEMSAS application, you do get 6 preferences, and when you get 6 preferences, you need to think like, okay, if I'm applying for this university, what are my chances? Is there more chances of me going to another university? But maybe sometimes I can have a bit of a throwaway. And to be honest, everyone here, I would highly recommend to apply to USyd. If you feel like you're not going to get in, just apply anyway. It's just another application. Whereas with the GEMSAT application, you do need to like think about like where you're going to go. So for me personally, my GPA was not the best. It was actually pretty terrible. My first degree was biomed at Deakin University, and I finished with a GPA of 4.7, which is actually pretty horrible. And I didn't have any chances of going to any medical school in the country. So what I thought, what do I do with this? Do I keep trying? Do I boost on my GAMSAT? And I thought, maybe I can try something else. And I actually tried I actually did another degree. So I did a Bachelor of Science at University of Melbourne. And it was really funny because when I just got out of high school, I had an ATAR of 75. And I thought that no one would take me. There's no chances of me going into medicine. And now, and after doing that first degree, I go into University of Melbourne, and that was a small win for me. And then during that time at Melbourne Uni, I did boost up my GPA, and to be honest, like a lot of people here, I don't know if if you're considering doing a second degree, or you're thinking like, oh, I've done one degree, like should I do another degree? It's kind of a pride thing, and I think if your GPA is at a point where it's like your WAM is about 70%, I would highly recommend going and doing another degree if you want to boost your chances of more universities. But if you don't, that's okay. You can do a master's, and there are a couple of pathways and bonuses to do that. But you have to realize that your chances may be a little bit limited depending on which university you're going for. So I chose the second degree, and my GPA went up a little bit. I popped it into the GPA 5 area, but then it was still not enough. And that's when I started doing an honors. So I got into an honors degree in 2020. And to everyone here, research might not be your thing, but I would actually highly recommend doing research. Not only do you get a chance of looking into what we can do in terms of like have pretty much like you're going into a field where it's like there's not much knowledge there, so you're adding to that knowledge, and also you already have that research experience when you go into medicine, and you will go into medicine. I believe that the 38 people here will definitely go into medicine in the future, and with that research knowledge in your third year, in your fourth year, you're going to be ahead of a lot of people who don't have that research knowledge. And then in the future, oh, okay, there's a question. Go for it.
Okay, hello everyone, I'm Talia. So I was just wondering,
Yes.
say you're sitting on that like around a 6.4, 6.5, 6.6, varying from like weighted to unweighted GPA.
Yes.
If you don't get first class honours, that could bring you down. I was wondering, like, I'm from Queensland, so I'm first of all looking at Queensland unis where it's like a 6.8, 6.7 unweighted. Would you recommend doing an honours with that GPA, just because if I don't get first class honours, it could potentially bring my GPA down?
So are you doing honours this year? Am I correct to say that? Okay.
No,
so
I'm wondering whether I should do an honours next year if my GAMSAT isn't great.
So if you're looking at a 6.6, that's actually pretty good. And a lot of people don't really have that sort of score as well. The universities you might be looking towards is like Griffith University, which historically has looked into that mid-range. But if you don't get in this year, God forbid you don't get in this year, I would look into honours, because I know with UQ, if you do get first class honours, and I'm pretty sure you'll get first class honours, it's you just need to get a good supervisor, need to get a good project, and you need to be able to. It's like getting a thesis out is like doing an assignment. If you get a first class honours, that GPA 7 is what UQ takes, and you have an automatic first class honours for your entire GPA. So I would recommend doing another degree if you don't get into this year. There's always chances of boosting your GPA, and I think a little bit about my story is that I didn't really stop there. I found ways to increase. There is a risk, there is an inherent risk, but I think it's like high risk, high return. That's how I go about it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other questions about the like GPA and that sort of stuff? Okay. All right. So UQ actually takes a key degree. So what that means is that if you did an undergraduate degree, they take that GPA and then use that GPA for whatever. If you do a master's, they only take the master's degree and then do that. If you did honors, they only take that honors. So anything that you did beforehand, they supersede it. So that's one reason why I did honors, because I thought, okay, I've seen people get first class honors. If I get first class honors, and then basically your UQ is going to take that, and then you get GPA 7. But then there is that thing where you need to worry about the GAMSAT and the interview. Okay, another question. What if you have done honors before and honours won't count. I feel you need to rephrase that question a little bit. Would doing okay, masters does boost GPA, but some universities actually don't take on masters. They actually take in your bachelor's degree and your honours. So just be a bit careful about that. I know Deakin does take masters. I know Notre Dame takes masters as well. So you need to look at the GEMSAS guide. Okay, so the ability to get second on the. What would you find the average GPA for applying into that, for example? Okay, so in terms of finding GPAs and averages, it's very I think you can go to Paging Doctor. So Paging Doctor every year, there's a lot of people jotting in their GPAs and GAMSATs, and you can actually sort of figure out what sort of GPA people have been applying with. But I think a word of caution there, because what happens is that a lot of people actually get high GPAs, and then they like, oh, I'm gonna show the world that I've a high GPA, and then they put it in. So just to be a bit careful about that. But I did it last year, and I actually saw I actually looked for the lowest GPA and the lowest GAMSAT that people got in with, and that sort of gave me hope. So that really tells you how many people do getting. Okay, do you mind telling us what you did for honours? Okay, cool. So, okay, so for honours, what I did was I actually did it in neurophysiology. So in my final year of my second degree, I knew that my GPA wasn't good enough. So I started looking for supervisors, and I found a really cool supervisor. We had a meeting, we vibed quite well, and then yeah, he gave me a project, and then the year after, I did the project with him. He really helped me with my thesis. And the thing is that these supervisors, they actually want to publish as well. So it's in their best interest to help you do well with your thesis. And because he helped me so much, my thesis was well enough, and I got first class honours. And someone who had an 8 or 75, I was actually very stoked that I ended up getting first class honours, and that really helped me. And something to mention as well, in 2020, it might be different now, but I had a GAMSAT of 56, and my GPA did go up from 5.6 to 6.1, and in that time, I actually got a interview offer from Melbourne Uni. And I was actually really surprised that I got an interview offer from Melbourne Uni, because my GAMSAT was like one of the lowest. And also, I'm a rural student, so that was one thing. I didn't get through. That's another thing. But yeah, and then the year after, when my honours was actually counted, it was great. I had so many more options to apply. Okay. Oh yeah, that's amazing that you did honours at the Murdoch Institute. That's great. Okay, so a person. Okay, so I did a bachelor's degree and I did a second degree. My GEMSAT wouldn't look at my honours anymore as it was my before. Okay, so the thing with okay, so that's actually a really good question. So my honours degree was my final year of my 3 years. So I tried to actually take out my biomed degree from Deakin, because it was such a horrible GPA that I just didn't want it to be counted. So what I did was, my first 2 years was my science degree at Melbourne Uni, and then my final year was my honours degree. So because I had a GPA 7 in my final year, I went from a GPA 5.6 to a GPA 6.2. So it went up quite a bit. So just be careful about that, because if say you have a really good GPA, you want to do something else that doesn't bring your GPA down. And honours for me was low risk, so I did that. I felt like if I did a master's, I had to study, my GPA would go down. So yeah, just be a bit careful about that. Okay. All right. So what is the weighted, unweighted GPA? Okay. So weighted GPA. So that's a very good question. So your final year for some universities, they weight your GPA 3 times, and then some other it's like 2 times, and then 1 time for 1 and 2. But for some universities such as Melbourne Uni, they count your first year as one time and then second and third years as two times. So your GPA might go down a little bit. Griffith, they don't have any weighting. So just be a bit wary of that. But it's always good to have something in your final year that will really boost your GPA. Okay. All right, cool. I think we should really move on about the GPA stuff. So what else is important in your medical school application? Because I think GPA is one thing that we're all really worried about because like a 6.6 GPA, is that enough? But I think also need to consider about the other stuff like GAMSAT, for example. Interviews is a big one, and also portfolio universities. So at the moment, portfolio universities, there's only one portfolio university, which is University of Wollongong, unfortunately, because Notre Dame has decided to take away the portfolio. And to be honest, it's not really bad that they took it away. It doesn't mean that your chances of getting into Notre Dame is actually worse, but it means that there's other ways to get into medical school. So, for example, now that they have changed the portfolio system, they've actually implemented CASPA, and there was a webinar on CASPA before. And if you have any questions on CASPA, I'm happy to talk about that later. So in terms of extracurricular activities, what are some common extracurricular activities people like to get involved? Okay, so I guess I want to put this to you guys. If think about a time that you have done something at university, like what sort of stuff have you done outside of studying 24/7 in your science or biomed degree or med sci degree? Oh, okay. No, no one's deciding to put it up. Okay, so, okay. Someone did computer coding. That's really, really cool. Maybe you can help me with my Chat GPT escapades. Okay, so someone's at Bond University. Okay, are there any that you would recommend? And okay, yeah, good point. Yeah, I'll represent Australia. Wow, that's amazing. Dancing is really cool. I actually put dancing in my application for Wollongong, so it's everything is fair game. Okay, so extracurricular activities. Oh, someone volunteered at St. John's. That's amazing. That's really, really good. I think like with extracurricular activities, it's very important to think about what you've done in medical school, because yes, GPA is important, GAMSAT is important, and we're studying nonstop. But when it comes to talking to a person in front of you in an interview, you have to show those people skills. You have to be able to put yourself in situations and really logically think about, how would I be that person to navigate in that situation? And even when you're a doctor in the future, you're not going to be like behind a computer unless you want to do radiography or radiology. That's a different story. But if you want to go into medicine, it's very important that you have to have those people skills. And I think people skills start from getting involved with extracurricular activities. If you're in your final year, that's completely fine. Do something that interests you. Do something that will make you feel like you can get some growth in terms of getting those people skills. So what I did, growing up, I was a very very shy kid. I actually was very socially awkward. And then once I got into universities, the first 2 years, I actually did nothing. I was in that mindset that I need to get my GPA up. I want to get into medicine. But then when it came to final year, my GPA was crap, and then I thought, okay, there's the Biomed Society. I'm going to join the Biomed Society, and then I became the treasurer for the Biomed Society, and they gave me a lot of life skills. I was able to do a lot of like balance sheets. I was able to check on finances. I was able to negotiate with people, and it helped me to this day. Like, I'm able to negotiate with certain people, and that was my stepping stone to do other things as well. And for me, medicine was not the only thing in my mind right now. With medicine, I can do so much more. And it actually gave me a lot of perspective. It's not just about helping people. It's about being influential and being able to to help people in various different ways, and that's what extracurricular activities helped me. So when I got into Melbourne Uni, I became president of a charity club. I was able to also, I was also the secretary for another society, and then when I got into honors, I was again vice president of a different club, and then also tutoring. I was also doing a lot of tutoring as well, so I was getting that human interaction, and these things really helped me to develop my people skills. I was able to talk fluently. I was able to add it to my portfolio as well. So when it came to Wollongong, when it came to Notre Dame, I didn't feel like I was restricted when it came to thinking about like which universities can I go to. Melbourne Uni, Deakin weren't the only universities I can apply to. I could apply to Wollongong. I could apply to Notre Dame. And then when it came to the interview, I realized that interview was another beast. And yes, I had those people skills, but then I had to actually learn how to think on my feet. Okay, so what are some activities that make you stand out? That's a good question. And I think there was a question about what sort of activities I would recommend to people. So just in the chat, how many people, so I'm assuming everyone's in their final year. Have you finished a degree, or are you working full time? What are you guys doing? Okay, finish your degree, final year, working full time, RN, full time. Okay, all right. So I think now that a lot of people are like doing full time work, or they're in their final year, I think people in their final year just be wary about your GPA, because you don't want to overload yourself. And I made a huge mistake in my first year of medical school last year, that I actually took on too many things, and that really affected my GPA in medical school. So I'm cognizant of that. So just be wary of that. But now that you're doing full-time work, or if you've finished your degree, take on different hobbies, take on different things that that you can feel like you can flourish in. Do different things, like be part of your community, or like do things that you wouldn't have done before. So what I did was, I'm actually very involved with my own community. So my background's Bangladeshi. So I'm really involved with my Bangladeshi community, and I've helped with a lot of gatherings where there's a lot of performances that like kids my age and younger, they do. So I've been like organizing them, and that's something like portfolio communities love. And also you develop a lot of people skills. I've been harping about people skills a lot, but yeah, these sort of things that I would just look into. And also, yeah, so like there's also like personal qualities. So when it comes to personal qualities, like in your interview, like when you are in that interview, they're going to ask you things like, tell us a time when you have dealt with feedback, or tell us a time when you've done this. And straight off the bat, you're going to have a story to tell. And that's very important, because if you're someone who hasn't experienced life, it's going to be very difficult to really get a story out of thin air. And I'm not saying like go on like a trip to like to like Africa and find yourself. I'm not saying anything like that. I think start small, and you're gonna deal with a lot of people through that. Yeah. Any question, guys? I don't want to keep talking so much. So any questions about that? Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you for the feedback. Yeah. So okay. So now with the extracurricular activities, I know that Wollongong is the only university in Australia that has a portfolio. And word of caution, there is a lot of like, for Wollongong, they do prioritize rural students a lot. So with the portfolio, there is actually a rural bonus. So that means that either you're from a rural background, or you actually worked in a rural place. I'm actually from a rural background, so I got that bonus. But say you like worked in a rural town, but you actually live in metro, you can definitely add that to your portfolio, and you'll potentially get that bonus. There was a webinar that Lyndall did last year. I don't know if it might have changed this year. So do look out for those webinars. I know that there's a phrase. This is a Fraser's webinar, but whenever there is a university webinar, go there because that's official advice, and really jot down what you need. So that's one thing. But that doesn't mean you should be discouraged from applying. I would, if you have a lot of life experience, or if you want to boost your chances and you think that the other universities, it might be a bit difficult to get into, do go into Wollongong because there's leadership, there is human high performance. There's also service. So if you have been involved with charity or volunteering, that's something you can put into. Also working with individuals, that's also a section. So with my honours degree, I worked with patients. So I was able to put that into my degree, into my portfolio. So that's one thing that really helped. And with Wollongong, do cross-check me, but GAMSAT and portfolio is the first thing that they look at, and then once you've crossed that stage, they look at Casper, portfolio, and then your interview. GAMSAT's out of the way, so that's one thing to be wary about. So do look into portfolios because portfolios help. But if you're not looking into portfolio, think about how these extracurricular activities can help you as a person when it comes to the interviews, because with your interviews, you can then be that sort of person where you can draw on experiences. Okay, so there's a couple of, how much previous work experience can be relied on? You can rely on as much work experience as you can because being in a work environment, you're exposed to a lot of different things. So and like currently I'm working at Fraser's, right? And now that I'm working at Fraser's, there's so many things that I feel like I wouldn't have experienced if I worked at a different company or if I didn't work at all. Like I'm behind the scenes, like thinking about the business aspects of things and like the stuff, but also I'm thinking about how do I make the product better? How do I make sure that students get a lot out of us, and also the logistical things. How do I like negotiate with people? How do I make sure that I can show the value of me as a person? So these things are something that you do pick up on the job. I would also recommend getting multiple different experiences as well, because I think that's a very important thing. Is work experience and volunteering a bonus during an interview? It's a bonus in the sense that you can draw on those experiences, but it's actually not a bonus like you get 10%. It's not like that. I know Deakin does give you a bonus for work experience, but that's for a certain period of time. So do look into that. Yes, work experience is under any bonuses for health professionals. Deakin does give you a bonus for health professionals, but you have to work for a certain period of time. Honors with working with animals, yes, you can definitely talk about that. That's a very thing. Okay, I'll talk about UCIT a bit later. How recent do your experiences need to be? I would say anything past high school. I think if you talk about your high school experiences, there are some questions that do get raised. They're like, have you you'll be a different person from what you were in high school and what you are now as a person, because you've gone through those 3 to 5 years in university. So I would recommend drawing on those very recent experiences, but also be very careful about the most recent experience that you're going to be drawing. So because like if you're doing like extracurricular stuff just so you can pad your resume, that's something that interviewers are going to like just see through. So just be a bit careful about that. Okay, so my work experience is quite spread out, like working for yeah, and I'm worried that the short okay, wait, let me read that again. It's quite spread out, like working for a short periods in the lab and patient care, and I'm worried that the short time frame would work for. I think with the short time frame, I wouldn't be too worried about that. I think there's a couple of key things you just need to look into, because there's a couple of key skills that that interviewers are looking for. And with that, like just what I would do, everyone here, go on Google, type in qualities in a doctor or qualities in a medical student. If you can list out those qualities, think about a story that you can attach to those qualities. So, for example, honesty is a quality that that doctors need to have. Now, how do I draw on that? So I can say that, okay, so actually I had an experience today. So there was actually, when I was in the wards, there was actually, I was with my tutorial group, and a nurse came to us, and one of our colleagues went away. The nurse came to us and said, "Hey, Sudipta, just want to let you know that one of your colleagues has really bad odor. I would bring it up with him because the patients have been noticing this, and I don't know how to bring it up with him." And I was like, okay, and I've noticed this as well, but how do I become honest with him? So then I thought about, so my story then leads me towards talking to him in private, sitting him down, being wary about my surroundings, making sure that he knows that I'm being serious, and then inviting the idea that maybe he does have bad body odor, and also making him aware of that. So that honesty to him actually really saved him, because people won't be honest around him, and people are going to treat him differently because he has bad body odor. So that sort of things, like, you can like draw on, and that's an experience I experienced today. So yeah. Okay. I hope that advice helped. That was that was one of my experience. But there's like other stuff as well. Like what's off the top of my head? If you guys have Googled, tell me a quality that you think you have. I think that's very important. Okay, so 3 most important personal attributes. You mentioned people skills. Obviously, other interviewers are looking for. I think they're also looking for. I'm really late on the spot. I think I'll get back to you. I'll think about it. I'll get back to you. What if I don't really have any extracurricular except very recent volunteer? Or yeah, that's fine. That's completely fine. And I think also, if you're from Melbourne and you started uni in 2020, I'm pretty sure you couldn't do anything for the last 3 years. So it's completely fine that you don't have extracurricular activities, but it doesn't mean you can't get onto it. And having most recent experiences, I think it's good as well. And I think also, there was actually a guy last year that I was interviewing, and he has only done one thing. And the one thing that he has done was his work. And his work was being on Zoom. And then I pointed out to him, what sort of skills were you utilizing in that job? And if that's the only thing that you can talk about, that's completely fine, as long as you're hitting those qualities. I think that's the important thing. Okay, because I commute 3 hours a day, not really time. Yeah, that's see, like, it's not necessary that you have to get extracurricular activities. It's just an advice. Okay, cool. GAMSAT. Okay, all right. We do have to move on. Oh, okay. Another person is actually. You know what? I'll actually answer this. Okay, so, all right. So, okay. Sorry, there's a lot of messages in the chat. You guys are very engaged today. This is really cool. Okay, so any questions in your interviews that threw you off, or any odd, unexpected questions that they asked you? Okay, so I actually signed an NDA for University of Wollongong, so I can't really I can't really talk about those questions, but I feel like, oh, how do I answer that without exposing myself? Yeah, that's a tough one. I think do message me later on. So yeah, I think that would be. I'll give you a mini hint. I think it was a rural question. I would say think about rural. I think that's the big thing, because rural has a very complex sort of vibe to it, and every medical school in the country will ask you about rural. So yeah, that's one thing. Okay, alrighty. So, but do email me later, and don't tell the University of Wollongong if you do. Okay, all right. So GAMSAT, why it matters. So the logical principles of GAMSAT as a medical entrance exam. Okay, so GAMSAT is one of those things that it does matter, unfortunately, end of the day, and it's something that the scores have been going up every year. There's been prep companies, there's been tutors that have been probing and helping students to get through. And now that you are in that applications phase, I wouldn't be concerned too much about the GAMSAT right now, but GAMSAT is something, God forbid, if you don't get in this year, do focus on GAMSAT again, do sit September. And I would say September is actually relatively easier to do than March. There are pros and cons with September and March. September, if you have finished your degree and you do have that time, September is going to be a breeze. But if you're doing March, I would recommend March because you're in the holiday period. You have 3 months. You can go and study. You can get on a tutor. Yeah, you can do that. And for me, my GAMSAT scores were always 50s, and then my final GAMSAT, which was my 6th GAMSAT, I cracked 61, and I was so happy. I was focusing on which section I was actually doing terrible in. And section 2 was the one that I was okay at, but I knew I can make it better. Section 3, I was abysmal. But then I ended up doing better in section 3. And then section 1, I had no clue what I was doing with section 1. But I still got that help. I still got that tutoring, and I did as many practice exams as I can. Why is it important? Because some universities, such as like Melbourne Uni, for example, there's I think it was from memory, it was, I don't want to say the wrong information. Some universities have 50% in their breakdown for GAMSAT. Some universities like Notre Dame have it 1/3. So it's 1/3 GAMSAT, 1/3 GPA, 1/3 CASPA. And I think there's 1/3. Did I say interview? I did say no. So 1/4. Okay, 1/4 interview. So do correct me because it's been 2 years, but and you guys would know more about this. So I would go and just memorize everything in that GEMSAT book, just so you don't get called out on anything. But GAMSAT is very important because it does take a big chunk of your breakdown. GPA is one thing that you can't really change unless you do take the extra degree or that extra couple of years to improve, and it's a high risk thing, right? But then with GAMSAT's just 1 year. You can do it again, and you can do it as many times as you want, and you can get through. So that's one thing I would say about the GAMSAT. And just so I guess if you're comfortable mentioning your GAMSAT score, what GAMSAT scores do you guys are sitting on currently? And you can privately message this actually. Okay. 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 All right. So with GAMSAT, the recent trend that we're looking in at the moment, yes, I got into Sydney with 61, and the way I got into Sydney with 61, it was a late round offer. So my breakdown was 51, 74, and 58. And with University of Sydney, they don't take the overall GAMSAT. They actually look at your sections. So a lot of students in my cohort right now, they are actually their section 1 and 2 are pretty high, so like high 70s, and section 3, even though like there's like 80s and like hundreds and stuff, because their section 1 and 2 weren't that great, they couldn't get through. But that's non-rural, right? I'm a rural student, so things are a little bit different for me. So no, I got a 74 for section 2, not an 82. 74. No, I'm not that smart. Okay. Sorry, you're talking about a person. Okay, that's actually amazing. That's cool. Yeah. So do apply to USIT if you have those high breakdowns, but those people who are in like just below 60, still apply. There is still a chance of getting through. But think about where you're going to apply as well. I think if you're below a 57, I think just be wary that you may not get through, unfortunately, because that's happened to me. But also it depends on the pool of students, right? Who are applying. So just be aware of that. But then also think about the bonuses. So apply to those universities that give you bonuses, like Deakin, for example, Notre Dame. Give bonuses. ANU give bonuses. Like, so think about those bonuses, and you can potentially get through. So, yeah, I guess we're towards the end part of the webinar. But so, how to overcome the inevitable challenges that you'll face in your journey, and here's some constructive sort of stuff. So, okay, I've been studying for 9 years, and when I did that interview for Melbourne Uni, and I was the first cohort that did the interview for that one-way interview where you're sitting in front of a computer, there are video scenarios, and you have to answer within 1 minute per question. And it was so horrible. And I didn't practice as much as I wanted to. I thought I had 2 weeks of practice, and I was really anxious. Even though I have these sort of people skills that I can go and talk to people, when it got to that moment, I had no clue how to structure my answers. And when I got that rejection letter, it took a big toll on me. And I thought, where do I go with my life? But I sat down with a couple of friends, and also I sat down with my supervisor and my mentors. And it's really important that you have a mentor in your life who can give you that advice as to where to go. And my supervisor sat me down and said, Sidipta, I know you've been wanting to do medicine for such a long time, and really questioned me, how much does this mean to me? And it really meant to me a lot. And he said, medicine is not far away in the future. You can do medicine at any point in time. And then he said, why don't you do a PhD with me? So I applied to a PhD. And as I was applying to PhD, I really cracked down with GAMSAT. I also tore my ACL as well. So I had surgery at the end of 2020. So it's just that you just have to have that willpower that one day you will get through this. This is just an aspect in your life that you are stuck for a bit, but you're not going to be stuck forever. You have to keep trying. And I think growth happens when you do figure out what your mistakes are. If you can figure out where you're going wrong, then you can figure out how you can overcome them and what your solutions are. And solutions are there in front of you. I think everyone here who are the 33 people who are here, I believe that everyone here has the ability to get into medicine one day. And hopefully it's next year when you have done the application and done interview training. And then once you get into the interview, you blitz that interview, because you're starting here. You're already in this webinar. A lot of people have not even looked at how to apply for medical school. So you're already a step ahead. And for me, I fixed up my GAMSAT, figured out where I was wrong. I got tutoring for it, and then once I did well enough for the GAMSAT, I realized if I can get an interview for Melbourne Uni, I'm pretty sure I can get an interview anywhere. So I started interview training in June. I know I'm a bit of a freak because I started early, but I started early. I got into the habit of talking to people, talking in structures. And when I got the interview from University of Wollongong, I knew what to do. And I was still doing my PhD. I was still working. I was still doing clubs and societies. I was still doing portfolio stuff. And then I aced the interview, and it was one of the best moments in my life. That these, at the time, 7 years of just grinding, and I finally got to where I wanted to. It was not about I'm going to get into medicine one day. It was about I will one day become a doctor. And I think that's something that hopefully you guys can experience. Okay, all right. I think I think it's question time. I've left 9 minutes for question time, but I can go for a bit longer. So hopefully this webinar was useful. This was my first time going solo, so I apologize if I said random crap and it wasn't as helpful. So yeah, do ask me questions, and I'll just put in the chat my email so you can reach out to me. Actually, funny story. When it was a day that the interview office, sorry, not the interview, the medical office were coming out, I didn't even look at anything. I just expected like life was going on. I got in the car. I was going to uni to do my PhD study, and then the group chat was going off, and I stopped the car, and there was my offer in my email, and it was great. It was good. Okay, all right. Let's answer some questions. Okay, any tips for the different style of interviews? How do you deal with MMI versus panel? Okay, so I think looking at MMIs, with MMIs, think about scenarios that will come your way. Look at how many minutes does it take for each university. For example, Wollongong takes about 8 minutes to answer questions. So think about how you're going to structure your answer. But I think there's not much difference really. Panel interviews are a little bit more personal. So be ready to talk about your personal experiences. But with MMIs, it's very like structured. Like you have to answer the question. You have to ask the question directly. You have to say why, and then you have to summarize. Like it's very like clear cut. Whereas panel, you can also have that sort of structure, but you have to add a personal sort of twist to it. And they will ask follow-up questions. So there's not much difference. It's just that panel interviews are a little bit more personal. Okay, as a rural student, what uni would you preference? Okay, so I would go guns blazing as to which university that you think you may never get into. For example, I actually put Melbourne Uni as my top preference because like I thought, okay, if I don't put Melbourne Uni at all, I have no chances of getting in. But if I do put Melbourne Uni as number one, there is a slight chance that they will come around and then they'll put me. And that's what happened in 2020. So I was actually expecting an interview from Notre Dame, which was number 3 on my list, but I put Melbourne, Deakin, Notre Dame. I think I put UQ, Griffith, and then Wollongong somewhere. But I don't want to influence your preferences. I would say preference your preferences the way you like which one you want to really get into the most, and then also the rest of them, what is your likely chance of getting in. So that's what I did. So if you're rural, put Melbourne Uni, put ANU, apply for USyd, definitely do it. Does GAMSAT consider a WAM of 80 versus 90? They're both GPA 7. Unfortunately, GPA 7 means GPA 7. It doesn't really matter. But WAM, it's not going to be a perfect GPA 7 unless you've done honors and it's UQ. They will calculate it, and also when you do send in your application afterwards, you can actually ask GEMSAT for a calculated GPA from each of the universities. There is a service. If you do it early, you have to pay for it, but if it's later on, they just email it to you. So get onto that. I really doubt myself and ability to. No worries. What does a realistic WAM look like for med? A lot of, I would say 6.5 and above is like really competitive, but you can get away with 6.3. Your GAMSAT, it's like a balancing act. Your GAMSAT, if your GAMSAT's high, you can get away with an average GPA. And I'm not saying 6.5 is an average GPA. Actually, that's really high. But just be wary of that. And I think the advice that I would give everyone here is that try your best for everything. If you can do well in the GPA, try really hard. GAMSAT, try really hard. Interview, try really hard. Give it your all for everything, because you're going to make sure that you put you're positioning yourself in the best possible way. So my GPA is not good. I don't really have extracurriculars. Any suggestion on what I should do? I think with your GPA, if you're really concerned about your GPA, it may be worth looking into doing another degree, and like I know it's hard, I know it's difficult that like you've done 3 years already and now you have to start all over again, and I had to sort of swallow my pride and start all over again. But if it does pay dividends eventually. I'm 26 years old. I thought I was going to get into medical school at 21, and once you get in, age doesn't matter. So you can do another degree and boost your GPA. You can do a master's degree and boost your GPA and get bonuses, but also just be wary about the universities. You can do honors, and I think honors is the great way to boost your GPA. But also don't tell your supervisor that you're doing honors to boost your GPA, because they're never going to take you. Or you can you can do a PhD. And for me, I thought if I finish my PhD, by the time I finish my PhD, Griffith University is going to give me a GPA 7. So and also like portfolios as well. So I'll be in a really good position as well with that. What got you? Okay, so what got you in UCIT as a rural student? So with UCIT, my GAMSAT was the one that got me in. Because they don't look at your interviews. There's a hurdle for GPA. So non-rural is 5.5 and rural is 4.5. But GAMSAT is a big one. Do focus on section 1, section 2. What resources did you use for interview prep? I used phrases, but I also, with phrases, I used the interview generator a lot. I also got onto their program as well. So I went to the webinars. I got a tutor as well. Do consider phrases if you not, but there's other companies as well, like Howard to Health. Don't tell my bosses that I talked about Howard. There's also like even private companies as well, and also private tutors. Just get someone out there who will listen to you. I think that's the main thing. But also do look into like having like interview like groups, like get like a bunch of applicants together and just rattle through questions. And the resources you can get is you can get them online. So there's a lot of free resources on Paging Doctor. There's also a lot of free resources on Reddit as well. There's also a free resource. So if you guys googled phrases community, there's actually, so Google phrases community, sign up on phrases community. It's free resource. It's kind of like the Reddit of that phrases has. You can then get free resources there. So I guess to summarize that question, get tutoring, look online for free resources, get a group of people that will listen to you. Literally what I did every single day is I did questions under timed conditions, and that got me over the butterflies. Okay, so all right. It has been so stressful to listen to webinars of well-performing students who have successful. Your experience. Oh, no worries. Thank you. Okay. Is there any other questions? I'll probably go for another 5 minutes if there's any other questions. Just out of curiosity, is medicine what you expected it would be? How do you deal with more? Yeah, good question. Medicine was not what I expected. And I think even though I thought that this is something that I really wanted and really something that is going to be like, this is going to be the rest of my life, there are times where I do question myself that, am I in the right degree? Am I in the right career? And the reason why I think about that is because of how difficult the course is. University of Sydney is actually one of the most difficult courses in the country, next to UQ, because in first year they cram every single thing that you learnt in biomed, in science, and they expect you to know everything. Even though there's no prerequisites, you're supposed to be able to synthesize everything a lot. Very quickly, and then from second year onwards, it's chill. You're in the wards, you're happy days, and then third year comes around and screws you over. So yeah, it is a huge learning curve, and studying actually is one thing I actually had to relearn how to do, because with medicine, it's not about like about learning the content. The content is actually straightforward. It's about how do I cram this content, which is about 10 hours long, into a couple of hours. Because the way the usage structure is that we get only 2 days to cram about 10 to 15 hours of online videos, and then you go to the lectures on Thursdays and Fridays, and that's about 1.5 hours long. And then they expect you to go to the hospital once a week and regurgitate everything that you've learned. So it does take a toll on you, and a lot of people do fail medical school, and luckily they do allow you to repeat. So there's about 15 people who have repeated first year from last year. So that sort of thing. So yeah, do be careful what you're getting yourself into, because medicine is like nothing that you've experienced. Medicine is a completely different beast. Okay, so I recently signed up for the Fraser interview course, but as an international, I was worried that there are some differences in application timelines. What? Yeah, okay, yeah, just email me. We can have a chat about that. Okay, so how many days are you in person at UCID? 2 days at uni, or what? Okay, so I'll give you a brief sort of timeline. So our day starts on Tuesday or Wednesday. So let's say Tuesday is your free day. Tuesday is when you're supposed to get through all your online videos. Your online videos are about 6 to 10 hours, depending on which block you're in. So currently the first years are in respiratory block. So they're learning about asthma. They've learned about asthma, COPD, bronchiectasis, pneumonia. What else is there? There's also TB. All these different conditions, right? But then on top of those conditions, you have to learn about anatomy. Anyone who has done anatomy, who has an anatomy major? Okay, I'm an anatomy major, and my anatomy degree was for the entire year, right? So second year, they go through like the brief stuff about anatomy. In your final year at Melbourne Uni, they go through like the upper limbs and lower limbs in first semester, and then everything else in the second semester. It's a bit more relaxed. In first year, they literally crammed everything that I learned from like head to pelvis in 2 weeks. And I was freaking out. And anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So we have to learn everything on Tuesday. Wednesday is our clinical placement. So we go into the wards. We learn about how to take a history, how to do physical exams, and then we go and talk to patients. So really cool thing about UCID is that you do get to talk to patients, which other medical schools don't really get. And Melbourne Uni and some of the prestigious medical schools, they are going towards that model. But if you say you go to like Notre Dame, for example, you don't see patients until third year. Okay, so and then there is so on Thursday, so you start at 8 o'clock. So from 8 till 11:30, there are lectures. So 1.5 hour lectures. There's no breaks, and then from 12 to 2, you get an anatomy prac, and then 2 to 4, you have a histology prac or a physiology prac. And then if you do want extra help, from 6 to 7:30, you get to go to a back to basics block, tutorial. Then on Friday from 8 till 12, you have lectures again. And then from 12 to 3, 1 to 4, there's a ethics and law lecture that you can go to. Well, okay, you have to go to, because it's compulsory. Usually you can't miss out on lectures, or you can't miss out on tutorial stuff, because everything is required learning, and attendance is a key thing. And then on the weekends, you should be studying. A lot of people do relax, but I'm not the brightest kid, so I have to do the online videos at that time, and you can't get through the online videos. You have to find time to study. It's not just about going to the lectures. It's about how do I study and get through it. And I realized in first year that you can't passively just read everything. You have to do exam questions. You have to do Ankies. So a lot of medical students would be doing Ankies and trying to cram everything in their brain just so they can get to the next block. And then you have exams every 8 weeks. So there's 4 weeks in a block, so they examine you on two blocks. So yeah, that's that. And then if you're someone who tries to do everything with their life, you try and work and do other stuff. So I'm not only am I doing phrases, I'm also the AMSA rep for University of Sydney. So AMSA is the Australian Medical Students Association. So I do that as well. So burnout is real. So do be wary about what you're getting yourself into. UCIT is a bit crazy. Wollongong, I hear, is not as crazy, but they also have final year exams. They don't have block exams. So yeah, do be aware of that. Okay, so yeah, once a week. And then in second year, third year, you're basically in the hospital all the time. In third year, you can go rural if you want to. So you can go to Dubbo or anywhere, or Lithgow, anywhere, which is really, really cool. And I would recommend going rural because you get so much experience. And then in your fourth year, you can do an elective block where you can go overseas and for like a couple of months and then come back. Alrighty. How do you have time for phrases? I don't. I really don't. I work about 5 hours every week, so I make sure I don't overdo myself. But yeah, medicine it does consume your life, so you just have to be careful about working and stuff. So you can work. Usually, a lot of people on the free day do work. So yeah. How do you know any resources on rural written applications running about? We do have a lot of actually you can message me or email me at phrases and we can help you out with that. Okay. Any other questions, guys? Feel free to unmute yourself as well. Okay. All right. I think anything else you want to know about me? I think that okay. Anything else you want to know about me or any other stuff like how do I study? All right, I'll put my my email in the chat again just so you can reach out to me. Oh, okay. All right. Notre Dame is it's actually a pretty cool uni. I think like the people that I've talked to from Notre Dame, they're actually some really nice people. In terms of the course itself, they have something called a spiral learning. So spiral is like where it's not like blocks. So like with UCIT, it's like cardio block, rest block, and all that, right? So Notre Dame, 1 week you're learning about pneumonia. The next week you're going to learn about cystic fibrosis, or you're going to oh actually that's rest. you'll learn about like gastro, or you're going to learn about renal stuff, or so anything. So like it does keep you on your toes, and it's really cool, but it can get a bit confusing. A lot of my friends who are at Notre Dame at the moment, they are enjoying it because they're getting a lot of knowledge. Whereas at UCIT, we do go by block, so it's a bit more organized. So that's that. And Notre Dame, there's a lot of lectures, so that is online or you can go into. They also don't get clinical placement until third year. So third year and fourth year, you get to go to Melbourne or like anywhere in Victoria, or you can go to New South Wales. So that's what Notre Dame is like. I know in the first 2-3 weeks they do a bioethics lecture, which is amazing. So yeah, do consider going to Notre Dame. Okay. What is this about you gathering 10,000? Oh, okay. All right. So in 2020, when I started my honors degree, I started it. I was doing the GAMSAT, and GAMSAT got postponed. GAMSAT got postponed to May, and then I was doing my honors. But then a lot of the medical schools came around and said, we're not including 2020 into your results. And as a student who has a GPA of 5.6, that was the worst news that I can ever hear. And I was really shocked. And I was thinking, what do I do? At that time, a lot of the student unions were petitioning about different things and protesting. And I was a president of a charity club. So I was the president of the Australian South Asian Healthcare Society at Melbourne Uni. And I thought I was in some sort of position of power, you would say. So I emailed the president of the Biomed Society at Melbourne Uni, the president at for Science Society Melbourne Uni, and then I started emailing presidents from around Australia, and we got together in a group chat, and we started this petition. And we actually got on ABC radio where we started talking about how, like, why are these medical schools not taking 2020 when a lot of people are still studying, they're still paying the same fees. And Griffith came out with a really good model. They said that if you didn't do well in 2020, we weren't included. But if you did okay in 2020 and you want to opt in, you can do that. Whereas Melbourne Uni, Deakin, and like Wollongong as well, I think ANU and Macquarie, they all came around and said, we're not taking 2020. So that was a huge hit for me. So we started a page on Facebook. We've started this petition. I think it's still up, but Macquarie University changed their guidelines because of us, and that was a huge win for us. Melbourne Uni the year after included honours, and also some units before 2020, like the summer of 2020. And Wollongong recently actually included 2020 into their results. I think Deakin is the only one that has said for the next 10 years no 2020. So that's what I did, and that was my gateway into advocacy and talking to a lot of people, getting to know people from different parts of the country, and I'm now really good friends with them in medical school. So yeah, that's a bit of my story, and yeah, so that's how I did that, and then that actually landed me a job at Fraser's as well. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. Okay, all right, I think I might wrap it up. So thank you guys. Thank you for coming. Yeah, do scan the QR code if you haven't already. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you soon in another webinar. All right. Thank you guys.